listening to the Energy is Love podcast.
We tried something and it didn't work. We've done it before in the past.
It was spaghetti sauce.
It was spaghetti sauce.
Just making a joke. Tried something. I was giving you an out. I was trying to make it about dinner. I just broke your brain.
Spaghetti sauce. Couldn't figure out what fucking reference you were making.
Well, this
Normally,
is how it's going to go.
So if you listen to the podcast and you're not watching us on YouTube, you should go watch us on YouTube. But if you just listen to the podcast, we have, what are you missing?
I love my rock downstairs.
Oh, do you want to go grab it?
I
It's
have
right
a
by
few.
the pills.
No, I'm not gonna run. I'm here.
Play with one of these. Play with my Labradite.
I don't want to play with your Labradite. I want to play with
My
rock.
citrine ball. Is that citrine, right?
That is citrine. I got you a citrine ball. Do you remember when?
Yeah.
When?
Don't fucking quiz me. I'm talking to the listeners.
Here we go.
If you
Not
listen
right
to the
now. God, I'm working.
if you listen to the audio version of the podcast, we have an intro, and then we talk about the episode, and then it leads into the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to do those. We have done those before the episode, so it's like we are talking future casting in a sense. We just tried that for this episode and failed miserably. I failed miserably.
I just stared at him.
So we're going to do that
we
after.
don't know what's going to happen.
We don't.
You don't know what's going to happen. We're in this shit. We're in this together.
We're flying by the seat of our pants for 2022.
A moment to moment kind of gal. Name that movie.
A moment to moment kind of gal.
Flying by the seat of my pants. Moment to moment. Really?
I'm lost, yeah.
We talked about her at one point on this podcast. She's a famous actress.
Julia?
Yes.
Okay.
So what's the movie?
Julia Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a moment to moment. Fly by the seat of your. Is it My Best Friend's Wedding?
No.
Okay. Runaway Bride.
No.
Give me the line again.
Pretty woman walking down.
Is that the show?
Yes.
Oh.
It's also a song, but yes, it's a show.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to give you the line again because I thought we were going to take a lot of time, so I would just give you an out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That would have taken a really long time.
It would have. I could tell. I was like, it's not going to be fun after a minute.
Was it also because you couldn't remember the line?
No, I did so good. You blame shifting? This is going to be an episode of Julia Roberts movie quotes.
Is it?
That was another one.
Blame shifting?
You're blame shifting?
What's that one from?
Seriously?
Sorry, I like her.
Okay, we know who the Julia Roberts fan is in this house.
Yeah, we do.
It is this one right
it's definitely
here.
you.
It is the Mexican.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
That's probably one of my favorite movies of hers.
It shows.
It's a good movie.
I know it's a good movie.
I remember that part. Blame shifting?
You're blame shifting? I'm calling a timeout.
It's 2022, and this is the first episode of this year. We are doing 2 episodes a week now, and this is the first part of that process. So you'll be able to listen to new episodes of the podcast on Mondays and on Wednesdays. So hopefully the idea is that your entire week can just be full of us, if you'd like, of course, right? If you want to stretch them out over...
We are a consent type of couple, so...
We definitely are.
We are, so...
Consent is massively important.
We would appreciate your eager and enthusiastic yes.
You have our permission to listen.
Yes, you do. There's our eager and enthusiastic yes.
Permission to listen. I like that.
Yeah.
What else is coming out this year? We started a clips channel on
you're doing so good
YouTube.
with that. I really like our clips channel.
It's fun.
Yes.
It's fun.
And I like how it can be misheard really easy.
Yeah. When I first did it, I did up the info for it and created the channel. Showed it to Steph and she's like, is that clits? Did you start a clit channel?
I totally thought, I'm like, that's how we're going on Pornhub. We got our clit channel.
Are we posting clits now?
That's right. You heard it here, folks.
The clit is so misunderstood.
Agreed.
Right?
It's getting there. People are starting to listen to
Hold
the
on,
women.
before we get into clit talk. Clit talk with Steph and Craig.
That's our next. That's our spin-off podcast.
Hold on. I had something I wanted to say. Oh, also, what else is new this year? I don't remember what I was going to say. Go to any of the places I guess you can find. I got super blinked out. Clits were filling up my brain.
They were, right?
Yeah.
They're pretty magnificent.
I remember the first time that I encountered a clit.
Oh, you have my full attention.
Yeah. I was very unaware of what was going on. The first time that I
encountered a clit.
I guess you can say fingered, right? What's the more polite way to say fingered a person?
Pleasured with your digits.
Is there what would be the right? Fingered sounds so...
Sexual acts of kindness.
Sexual acts of kindness. That sounds so crass.
I'm giving you alternatives and you don't like them.
Okay, so what was the first one with digits?
I think it was pleasure with digits.
Okay, so the first time I digitally pleasured a girl.
That's awesome.
I was a freshman in high school and knew absolutely nothing about what was happening or what was going on.
It's pretty young, yeah.
And I probably bumped into the clit. Maybe not. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. I don't think I was until maybe 18 or 19.
That you learned what it was?
Or kind of like what it like was about, I suppose.
Yeah. It's okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
that's okay.
Thanks for tuning in to our
are we done?
Clit talk with Steph and Craig.
All
yeah,
right,
we can move on. We don't need to talk about
You don't
clits.
want to go about...
Do you want to talk about clits?
Still not wanting to give them attention, I see.
I love the clit.
Oh, you are very kind to the clit.
Yes, I am
That was a
trying
joke.
to...
That was a joke because you got embarrassed and wanted to move on. And I was kind of like jumping into that stereotype where they say men, can't find the clit or know where the clit is. First of all, that's a lie, mister. You're very well acquainted. Thank you. But I was just being silly. I was like, because you wanted to move past it. So I was just
I got nervous.
with you. I know. You have a pass. I was messing with you.
I thought you said I have a past.
You do.
Because I was talking about digitally fingering some girl in high school.
When you were in high school.
Digitally, what did you call it again?
I don't remember. It's time to move on.
We'll have to go back. Shoot us a message. Let me know what I called it. We're not going to go into this a lot because honestly, we don't do like New Year's resolutions or...
No.
We learned a long time ago that make a plan and watch it go by.
I think it's just that energy behind resolutions.
What's the energy behind resolutions?
Pressure.
Yeah.
Success or failure.
Is that what it feels like for you?
That's what a lot of it feels like. That's not what it's about. I loved your take on it when you were like, before you sit down and do your resolutions, reflect back on what did you accomplish this year? Where did you achieve? Or were you a success?
Yeah.
And then do it.
Super
and
important,
like,
huh?
Instead of resolutions because when you look at resolutions, usually you hold it not on account of where you have succeeded and how you can continue to grow. You usually look at it like, this is where I failed and this is where I'm going to try to not fail this year. So like the energy behind that is already like grabbing onto failure as to where when you're like, let me get into my success, into my achievement, my accomplishments. And from that energy, what do I want to create this year? What are my goals? I think then that has a little bit more momentum.
So do you have some off the top of your head? If you could just pick one, I know we're not classifying it as quote unquote a resolution, but when you look at not even the time frame of 2022, right? Not just this year,
mm-hmm.
But what do you feel like is the next iteration of where you're headed? What's the next evolutionary growth of Stephanie?
Oh, there's a lot.
I know. But, pick one.
Well, I've been, I wrote down my goals. I did it with the winter solstice instead of with the new year because that's when the day starts.
Is the winter when it shifts and now it starts to get shorter, meaning
the winter
less
is
dark?
the longest day of the year.
Okay.
And so from here on out, the days are going to start to get a little bit longer.
Brighter and brighter?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yes.
darker and darker?
Brighter and brighter.
Okay. Summer. I'm so glad you're a witch. Go ahead.
So yeah, right now we are in the dark part. We are in where it's dark and it's
Dark
going
night
to
of
take,
the soul.
it's going to take a while before.
No drugs in this book.
But we have already hit the darkest
I was
night.
born in it.
Yeah, you were
You
vain.
merely adopted the dog. Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't know what I was saying. You're too cute. What was I saying?
So you did yours. You set some goals
With
for
the winter
yourself.
solstice, yes. my biggest this year, there are so many, but my number one on the list was to fall in love with myself completely. Just like really working on that self-love and that self-worth. And then I have like I detailed it in just like all these descriptors on how I want to feel and how I want to treat myself and how I want to hold myself. And that carries over into our podcast, into my business, into what businesses we're going to create and our relationship. And so it starts with that and then has this trickle down where when I grow, all of these things around me grow.
Baby, that's really beautiful.
Thank you.
That makes me super excited. I cannot wait for what fully like realized self-loving Stephanie looks like. I see her all the time.
Do you see her?
Fuck yeah.
I'm not far away. I'm working on it.
You really aren't. Do you realize how close you are to it?
So close.
Yeah.
Some days closer than others. Some days I take a little step back.
That's okay, right?
It is okay. That's the ebb and flow of life.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's going to be really like. Is that going to kind of be the thing that's in the forefront of your mind as you move through, you know, the next coming year, months, weeks, time, space, universe?
Yes, it is. And like stepping into myself, being brave enough to be out there, being brave enough to be seen, being not so afraid of the limelight and of like people knowing me.
Right.
Like there's so much that I'm like, so
it's going to be challenging, I think, for us, and maybe not, because we show up real vulnerably. We're doing even more of that and doing a better job of that. But as the podcast continues to grow, right, and as we continue to gain more listeners and all this kind of stuff, which is exciting. But I think we also have to remember, like, at the end of the day, we're just sitting here across the table from each other having a conversation, right?
Yeah.
So we have to forget about them and forget about that and forget about everything in that space so that we can still show up here and just have these conversations.
Yeah. I get really, like, I'm super grateful. I like the growth that we have, and I like that it's the momentum that we have. But there is like a part of this that is still like, even though it's being like videotaped, recorded.
Wait, we're being videotaped?
Right?
Fucking perverts.
There's still, because we're in our house, because, you know, it's still in that growth process, that there's still so much anonymity here. And that, like, being vulnerable has, like, my vulnerability has grown on the podcast and is coming out more and more. And then with that, as we're going, people are starting to reach out. And I'm so grateful when that happens. And
yeah,
that
we're
feels
getting
so
a
good.
lot
Like,
of feedback lately.
a lot. And like this really like heartfelt reaching out moments. And it makes me feel so good. And it scares me.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, you know, and I like, how do I act right now? I'm so nervous because it's almost like, it's this silly part where it's like your secrets are out. Right? Because then you're standing there. It's like, I've been running around naked in the woods by myself, and I came out of the trees and there's a festival going on, and I'm like, hello. There's
a crowd of fans that are waiting for you. This is my
naked body. I'm just going to like back it up a little bit. You know? So I struggle with that. And then I feel like I come off cold because I just like, I freeze up and I don't know what to say. And I'm like, oh.
When you're engaging with listeners.
Right? And so, and it's like, so if I come across as a bitch to you, I'm not being cold. I am like, what do I say?
Deer in a headlight.
Because I'm human.
Yeah, it's scary.
I get a little like freaked out. I'm grateful and it means so much. And I can sit here with you and I'm like, and I'm so touched. And it feels so good that I'm resonating with people and that you're resonating, that they're reaching out and they're feeling us. You know, like that's the point.
Yeah.
And then I freeze and I'm like, and I just kind of clam up and go. Like, sorry.
It's going to be important.
I'll get there.
It's going to be important, I think,
for us. Thank you for reaching out. I'm sorry if I get
Absolutely.
cold.
Thank you for reaching out. We love when we get to hear from the people that listen to this podcast.
Yes.
What was I going to say? Fuck, babe.
I keep distracting you. Are you by proxy?
I am by proxy.
That's the way it goes. Yo.
We're going to have to do a really, like, concerted effort to stay true to the podcast.
I don't think that's going to be hard. What do you mean?
You don't
Maybe I
think
don't
so?
understand. I don't think so.
Maybe I'm creating some imaginary thing that's not really going to be an issue.
I don't know. Maybe. I feel, for me, I feel more connected to I don't know what to say. It's like my words are so small, but my emotions are so big. Like I feel more connected to the truth and the vulnerability and like putting it out there of where we are and our thoughts and our feelings and our opinions, just hearing the way that it is resonating. And I know like when you're at a place and then you find a light and where you feel understood, that's so big. So I feel like more connected to that, but maybe I don't understand what you're saying.
No, I'm just being silly, I think, in my head, because I'm sitting, it's like, it's going to be hard, baby, when we're famous. Like, there's going to be people, you know, knocking at the door all the time, and like, we won't be able to go to Walmart like we did today because there's going to be crowds of people. No, that's probably not going to happen.
Oh, I think it's going to happen, and I'm still going to.
I think we'll still manage to be ourselves on the podcast.
Be ourselves on the podcast and choke and be nervous in front of people and be like,
Do you feel more like in your skin today? Do you feel more of like Stephanie than you have before?
Yes.
Is there something that stands out?
So many things. I'm just using my voice so much.
Yeah, you really are.
So much.
I mean, it's getting annoying.
I'm still afraid of the consequences.
So teasing, of
I
course.
know you are. I'm still afraid of the consequences because I've been taught my whole life to keep it quiet and to keep things, you know.
Got to keep secrets.
Got to keep secrets. Can't bring shame to anybody. Your behaviors aren't about you. They reflect this person. So you're supposed to behave. All of these things. I still have those stories in my head and I'm still scared. And then I still have so much, like I know I'm getting judged a lot. And so I'm having to find peace with letting everybody down and bringing shame because who I am is an embarrassment and being judged for who. So all of that, I still have to, like all of that is just, it's growing.
That's
like
all still in your head though.
Not exactly. But like to a point it is, yes, absolutely. But I'm getting actual, like.
Are people contacting you and saying you've let them down?
No. Do you want to remind me of your question because you distracted me away from it? So I'm in my emotions now and I don't remember what you asked me.
I asked. Oh, fuck, babe.
Yeah. Don't
interrupt you.
Makes me sad. It's hard for me to speak when I get on a roll and then I get shocked out of it and I'm too afraid to keep going. I can't remember. I get pulled out of it so hard.
You know, it's so hard for me to not interrupt you because it's not like I'm interrupting you.
Do you think I'm just rambling and not really getting to a point?
Not at all. I think it is directly correlated to the way that I was raised and brought up communicating.
To
just talk over each other.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like you're having a conversation and somebody says something and then rather than wait for them to finish that thought, you share your thought and just talk over them.
I do that to you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can do a better job there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we highlighted that on a recent episode.
Yeah, I think so.
Where
too.
you got upset with me for interrupting you. And then I continue to interrupt you.
I don't think it's gonna. I think the more, for me, the more people see us and the more this grows, for me, that's more confidence to continue to be myself and be it bigger because that's what's growing it, is the authenticity and the messiness and the fact that it's, you know, sometimes they're like really funny episodes and sometimes they're like heart-wrenching episodes, sometimes we just struggle the whole time.
Yeah.
Like we don't take those ones out where it just sucks and we're struggling communicating. We leave the realness of vulnerability, of emotions, of anger, of fucking up, of all of the things. Like I'm pretty sure if I farted on here, you'd leave it. You'd make a clip of it and highlight it.
It would be the best reel ever. And it would be like, it would be the type of reel where I was able to it would repeat over and over again.
It would.
So it would be in the middle of a
know.
conversation,
Jesus.
and then you'd hear the fart, and then there would just be silence.
Well,
and I would show your face.
my face would be doing something.
And then you would move again, and then we'd fart it, and then I would just edit it perfectly so where it was just a bunch of farts. Somebody asked recently about, well, it was somewhat recently. They asked if our parents were still alive because of what we talk about and how openly we talk about it, and how difficult that would be from their perspective and kind of the way that they pictured it, to be able to talk about that level of like truth and honesty and openness with your parents still kicking around. And I was like, yeah, all of our parents are still alive. And I think all of our parents, maybe with the exception of one, have gone through phases of listening to the podcast. Like I know my mom used to listen a lot back in the day. And then I don't know at what point I don't think she listens anymore. And then my dad, like, do you remember he like reached out at one point and talked about how he would sit down and watch the episode, every Monday morning with coffee or something like that when the new episode would come out on YouTube. And I don't think any of them listen anymore. I could be wrong, but do you know what I mean? Does it still... I shouldn't ask you that. It does not bother me in the slightest. It used to, and I used to worry about it, thinking about what they would think or if I would hurt their feelings or what they would feel. That used to bother me. And then the one that was harder for me to kind of let go of was our kids ever listening. And I mean, all of it, I don't fucking care anymore. I don't care who listens in regards to like our family. We were at your family Christmas party over the holidays, and one of our nieces, I won't shout her out, talked about listening to the podcast, and she like had it on when she was getting ready for the day and everything like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, which episode was it? Like, because there's some episodes that, but it's okay. It's all okay. Like, who the fuck are we kidding, right? That's the whole thing. I think society kids itself. We pretend like we aren't that. No, we're that. We're definitely that. Like, we're the couple that talks about everything. We're sometimes messy, sometimes fuck up. Like, we talk about everything. We might as well talk about it on the podcast, right? What are you smiling for? Are you trying to...
I'm trying not to cry.
Oh.
I'm having such a profound and like so proud of both of us moment.
For what?
So, how we got connection with our therapist is because I was in a group with,
Remember to talk into your microphone.
Sorry. This really incredible, strong woman that we had a lot of commonalities, and some like it was some of the things that we had in common were so strong that like you couldn't. It was an immediate, just from the very first introduction. And I won't say too much because I don't want to risk, like you said, giving her a shot. I want to pull her out. But it was like the way that our paths had done this. We were different ages, but the way that we had so many similarities, it was just beyond, like you couldn't not see it. Only she was going to therapy. She was getting, she was going through psilocybin treatments, and she had all the strength, and she was talking about how she was calling her dad out on the abuse. He was there. She was setting boundaries. She's like, you cannot behave like this if you're going to come around. So she wasn't afraid to talk about it. And the way that the things that she has to overcome and just those hard lines that she set those boundaries with her dad. And I'm like, how did you do that? I could never. And I was like, I want to do that. So like, I couldn't like even begin to fathom setting those kind of boundaries and how small I felt and how scary and painful. And so somebody's saying like, how could, they must, and I'm like, we're there, like doing that. And it was just this moment of like, oh, that part of me is healing and talking and being see, like I said, my voice. So it was just like this moment of realization of we're healing, like overcoming. We are being true to ourselves.
Yeah.
And this deep level that is, I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude right now.
Yeah.
I am pride too. I am, and not like the ego, but I'm like holding myself. I'm like, oh, good job. Like, we're doing good.
That group thing that you did with that woman was in the fall of 2019.
Was it 2019?
Yes, because we started
I thought it
therapy.
was after the pandemic. Wait, no, it was 2019.
Oh, no, wait. It was the fall of 2020.
Wait, hold on.
Because we started therapy in the spring of 2021.
Was it? It was. Okay, so yes, fall of 2020.
Fall of 2020 and maybe October, November into December.
It was October.
Of 2020.
It was October, November, December that I was in that group.
So a year later, probably to the fucking day, you set some boundaries.
Oh, yeah. A lot changed when I set those boundaries, but I did it.
You did.
And I've been talking.
Yes.
So that's huge. You're talking, you're doing boundary. I'm proud of us.
I'm proud of us too.
Moment? Like, bring it.
We've been fucking a lot lately too.
Oh, yeah,
to celebrate, giving ourselves all the sex rewards.
Oh my goodness.
When I think about what's coming up next for me, I like your self-love stuff. I think I've been doing that, obviously. Maybe it's not obvious. I feel like I've been doing that. And I'm going to continue to do that. I don't know. There's something coming that feels so significantly different. I guess this is probably accurate, right? What feels like is coming for me, it's coming for me, is like freedom. There is this sense that I am no longer bogged down and held back by these limiting thoughts and beliefs. And I'm noticing it in like just the most subtle thought process and just in the simplest way that I'm starting to view life. Like for the example, the other night when I was playing the guitar, I was in the middle of it. And I realized in that moment, because lately when I play the guitar, I mean, I've talked about this on another episode, but I'm going to this other place and I'm finding music there, Munich. I go to Munich, and I study the guitar in Munich. No, but it feels great. It feels like I'm in this really good flow. And I had this thought of like, where's this going next? And it used to be like very like, oh God, I don't know. It's like I got so much, like maybe one day if I do all this work and I'm like, I'm going to be singing and like totally fucking playing the guitar and writing music and singing. And I'm like, oh yeah, like that. And it's not even something that I'm like, I mean, yeah, of course I have to work and I have to, do all those things, but there's no limit to it. It's not small.
Yeah.
It's not, it's just not small. I feel limitless in regards to the possibilities of what exists for my life. And that feels like what is coming. That feels like what the next phase is. I was thinking about, the mindset that I have around money has always been heading in this direction. But something really key kind of, swung into position at the latter part of last year. where it all just clicked. And I'm like, we're never going to have to worry about this again. We're never going to be sitting in this fucking space of like, I don't know what we're going to do. Never. That's just not something that is going to bother me for the rest of my life. And that is huge. I mean, because it's not to say that suddenly we're just going to be like filthy rich. I'm not concerned about money in regards to like, I need so much of it and I have to be filthy rich and we have to be, loaded. But the mindset of like, we will be able to do that maybe if we have money down the road, or we can do, all of that suddenly has just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like sitting here thinking about, and the recognition in my head and in my thought process is not only is that thought process gone, so I no longer have that limiting belief, I guess, but now what happens is when I think about something, it's not the first thing that pops up. When I think about something that I want to do, the first thing that pops up is like, yeah, you're going to do that. And then it's almost like second or third. I'm like, hey, what about money? Like, how, bitch, get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? We ain't got to fucking worry about money. Like, that's just going to happen. Like the limitless opportunity that exists for me and for us and for our life and where we're headed and everything that's coming and everything that's being created right now. I think that's what's next for me. I think that's what's coming this year in a big way, is just like that thing. I had, because we're going to do a live podcast, most likely this year.
Probably.
I feel like it's coming this year. And I thought about doing it. This was the thought process. I'm going to take you down the rabbit hole of my brain for a minute.
Do it.
So the thought process was, because we have a venue that we'd like to do it at. It's a live music concert venue here in Salt Lake City. And it's a cool, really neat venue that probably seats like 500 people or something like that, maybe 1,000. And it's got a cool stage. I mean, it's a whole 9 yards. It's a really cool venue. And when I think about that, I remember when we had that idea last year when we thought about it,
mm-hmm.
I got nervous. Oh no, maybe we need to start a little bit smaller. And then lately, or the other day, I was thinking about the same thing, and I was kind of picturing it. And I thought, well, maybe we could do it at like like the Dancing Crane has that room where they would do sound baths, or they would do other things, classes and things like that. And I'm like, maybe we could do it somewhere like that. Not necessarily the Dancing Crane, but something smaller, a smaller little, more intimate, private venue. And I was like, bitch, we ain't got time for that. Like, we are so
Who's
much.
Bitch?
So
I'm just curious. You keep saying bitch. I'm like,
I do.
I'm over here like, yeah, bitch, we don't. Or I'm like, hey, excuse me.
Yeah. I don't know. I think she's probably, or he, I think they're probably listening.
There. So you're right. We don't have time for that because we are what?
We're a big deal.
Big deal.
Yeah. I mean, we're not going to go do it in some little back room, some conference center or something like that. You can't put
baby in a corner.
Fuck no. Baby's got to be up front dancing, right? It's the time of her life. She's got to run to Patrick Swayze.
She's going to fly.
Yeah.
Do this one.
So that's the big thing that I feel coming.
I believe
it's just
you.
This limitless thing of like, oh, this is it. This is the next phase of our life. It becomes this big, glorious, beautiful thing where we get to put our heart and energy into, I mean, it's not just putting it into this podcast. It's putting it into our life, right? Everything that we want to do, the way that we want to live. We haven't even talked about our
what?
Our like 2-3 year plan that's in the works.
Do we have a 2-3 year plan?
Yeah, where we're heading. Remember?
I don't have a timeline on things. I just like know it's big. So you have a 2-3 year plan?
Well, think about what's 2 years from now. We've talked about it.
Oh, it's not necessarily 2 years from now. Like it's not going to be like the moment. Like it's going to be established first.
January 1st, nope. 2024.
No, he's still going to be in school.
I know. But we haven't even talked about that on this podcast, and we might.
We might.
But it's stuff like that I just feel like
it's kind of a big deal, actually.
It is a really
and
big
I'm like,
deal.
What's the... We totally talk about it every day.
Right.
But I've never put like that linear aspect to it.
I know. It's just in the back of my mind of like, we have 2 years of prep work. Should we talk about it?
Well, when you say that is like crunch time. That's critical. That I'm like, ugh. Then that feels like it's deadlines.
It feels expansive for me. It feels like I
the
got
way
time.
I have been thinking of like, we have all of these things, we're moving into it, we're starting to incorporate more, we're going to be learning and gathering. That is expansive for me. When it's like 2 years, then what my brain says is, I'll look at it about 2 months before it's time to go. Maybe
Right.
2 days. Like, you remember when I moved out of the house in Twilla, what happened?
That's a story unto itself.
Like, I will then freeze and procrastinate.
Okay, we got a couple of things we need to talk about here.
Man.
First off, what you're describing.
You just started making me sweat. They were 2 years. Like, I don't think I can do this.
First off,
all
you're
my
talking
creative
about
energy is gone.
you're talking about old stuff.
Old stuff, yeah. Well, old stuff sometimes is like, hey, what up?
So don't forget about me.
Like, I'm here. I'm like, hey, girl.
Hey, bitch.
Oh, there she is. I see it.
No, you're not the bitch. What we're talking about is we have decided that when our youngest child that still resides in this home eventually graduates from high school and
is established.
starts his life.
Yes, starts his life.
As soon as he turns 18.
No, absolutely not.
But what we're going to do is we're going to sell
Mama's
this
here.
beautiful home that we have, and we're going to take, hopefully, all the,
Equity.
cross our fingers that the housing market holds. We're going to take all that equity and we're going to go buy some property somewhere, and we're just going to go straight homestead and off grid living, and like imagine long-haired, barefoot, hippie, naked people in the forest, and that's us.
We're 2 out of 3.
What?
Long-haired, barefoot.
We're hippies.
Okay, we're 3 out of 4.
And we're going to be
not,
naked.
I know, but we're not naked yet.
I might be.
You're
The lower half.
Do you have that winky face emoji going on right now?
Winky face emoji.
Do you remember that when you made the clip? Like, you're like, what would my emoji
Yeah.
be? And it was like,
So that's what we're talking about. That's something that we're actively
yes.
dreaming about and creating and planning and forming what that big, huge transition is going to look like when the time comes. So you're going to definitely be hearing more about that on this podcast. But I do want to tell the story of what happened when we moved out of your house,
Okay.
or when you moved out of your house.
Tell it.
Stephanie and I had been together for a few years, and it came time to buy a house together. And that was an exciting thing. This was
Yes,
back in
it was
2013. And
That's good.
8 years, 7 years, 8 years. And so Stephanie had her home that she sold, and then it was time to move. Anybody that's moved before knows how challenging it is. It's a lot to move. And it's a lot to move a house.
You're leaving behind like a little context.
Okay.
We decided we were going to move in together.
Yes.
So we were looking for a house, which meant I had to put my house up.
Yes.
And so all of this coming up, and I'm panicking a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
I can't even get the gun, which is funny because like I'm so like it worked out.
It worked out pretty well.
It worked out. But like, oh my gosh.
Was it so nerve-wracking?
It's so nerve-wracking that I was just like the context that I was going to give you, which like paints the picture that you're telling.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say. I immediately just went, huh?
Yeah, so
Continue,
it
please,
was like,
sir.
I mean, it was a process,
I'll stop
obviously, right?
interrupting.
Selling a house, buying a house, these things take time and they're a process. And then at some point in the process, everything's ready to go. And it's time to start packing up, putting things in boxes and organizing some things and getting things ready because the moving date is coming. That date we hadn't, like, we knew it was on a Wednesday or whatever, right? And it was coming. And Steph just wasn't doing anything about it.
I was head in the sand.
And it was like, hey, I'm pretty sure we have to move next week. Like,
I'm
she's
like,
yeah. And then I'd like come back the next day. Nothing was being done.
Nothing.
And her house, I mean, you'd lived in that house for like 10 years or something, right?
Something.
It was a long time. So there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit in that house. And she didn't pack any of it. And then it was...
I was scared.
I know.
I was
know.
so
You were super scared.
I was scared.
Yeah.
I was terrified.
You were terrified. So then it came time, and I think
It was like 2 days.
I think I did it in like 2 days.
Well, you had a couple of people come and help. You had to.
Yeah,
It was
but
like 2 days.
when it came time to the move, like there was a moving day where
There
people
was
came
a
and helped,
moving
but there
day.
was a like 2 days of me getting everything ready.
I was terrified.
I know.
I was terrified.
I felt so bad. I felt like I was forcing you. But I knew, I'm like, you want this. And I wasn't just talking about my dick. Like, I knew inside that this was something that was going to be not just good, but also like, I knew you wanted it. Because we had conversations, right? It's not like I had, brainwashed you into moving in with me.
I think that's exactly what happened.
How traumatic of an experience was that for you? It seems like it was pretty traumatic.
No. The experience wasn't traumatic. All of my trauma made me very afraid of that step.
Okay.
So that wasn't traumatic. That was exciting and wonderful.
I thought so.
And I'm sorry that I was so afraid. However, I had a whole lot of trauma.
Yeah.
A whole lot of trauma. Remember, I was getting out of a crazy marriage, and my plan was not to get married. It was to be the crazy cat lady. And all cheers to I didn't want a man. And then I even made jokes about being lesbian, which maybe was a joke, maybe not, whatever.
Did you make those jokes?
I did. I would tell you all the time, you got me right before I was a lesbian.
Right before you turned?
And then I was like, turns out I already am.
Yeah, it turns out I was about 30 years late.
Right? So I was terrified. I was terrified. Every man in my life had been controlling and dominating and abusive. And one situation was trapped, and I would get out of that and get into another situation where I was more trapped. It was chaotic. And here I was again. I wasn't going to do any of this. And then I'm doing it. A fucking cop.
Yeah.
Who I'm thinking I'm never going to be if this turns, I've got nothing. I've got no strength behind me on this. It's scary. And I'm taking my kids and I'm moving them.
Yeah, we blended families and did the whole 9 yards.
So I was terrified. It wasn't traumatic. That was a beautiful, beautiful time that was colored with my terror.
So in 2 days, I packed up her house and we moved. And then I unloaded all of it. I didn't unload all of it. Obviously, there were people there to help. I'm over exaggerating, but we put it all in the garage.
It was a storage unit. We put it in a storage unit.
That's right.
And then moved in with your mom for 2 weeks while this house closed.
Was it 2 weeks?
It felt like 2 or it was 2 probably years, 4.
A month.
It was probably a month.
Yeah.
It was hard.
That was really hard.
We had her house was like a clown car with people.
Yeah.
And animals. There were kids on couches. There was arms hanging out of windows.
And cats and snakes. And...
it was crazy.
That's right. I forgot we had to dump everything into a storage unit.
Storage unit. And then...
So we had to fucking move it all twice. I hate moving.
I hate moving too.
Yeah. We're going to do an Energy is Love podcast yard sale later this spring.
We're not taking this shit with us.
So... if you're local and you want to come hang out at the yard sale, maybe we'll record a live episode of the podcast for the yard sale.
So please do not think that was a traumatic experience. That was a beautiful experience.
I know it wasn't.
Do you know what happened when we left? Because I hadn't been sad about leaving the house. I wanted to get out of that energy. I wanted the kids away from all of that.
Yeah.
But I was scared of blending our lives together. But I didn't feel anything about that house because there was so much negative energy there. There were so many bad memories.
Yeah.
And that's all I could see. But the day that it was the last walkthrough and I'm looking at the pencil marks on the walls and I just lost it because I could see the good for that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm remembering where kids crawled for the first time and their first steps and then it was overflowing with all this emotion. I'm so grateful that those memories came out at that last minute so I could have those because I didn't have them. And I was like, here you go. These are your gifts. And then we're driving and that Mumford & Sons songs comes on. I'm going to make this place your home. That song. And so we're leaving. I'm driving. That song comes on and I'm like, wah! I was the universe being this is a good move. So it was also beautiful. Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't talk into the mic the whole time.
You're good.
I'm being emotional.
That's okay. Obviously.
Oh my goodness. So it was so beautiful. And I have so much love and so grateful. But it was scary.
It was very scary.
I was scared.
I was very much just in go mode the whole time.
Yeah.
So I wasn't feeling a lot of that
See,
stuff.
that's how you did it. And I was like trying to brace against everything. Like,
Yeah. I was just in like, let's get this done.
I was
Gotta rip this shit off like a Band-Aid and get into our home, and then we can start.
Oh.
Our life, huh?
Yeah. So
We could do a whole
thank you.
podcast on our journey together.
I think that's what it is. I think we do that pretty much.
Is there stuff you
so.
think like there's probably, I know there is actually, there's lots of stuff that we haven't talked about on this show, but
Yeah. Maybe in 2022.
that's now.
We've got a whole year.
I think we need
Jesus.
this is going to be a 5-hour long
Did you not
episode.
hear like how I procrastinate in a way? Like, I'm pretty sure that's in my chart somewhere.
The procrastination?
It's just because I'm afraid
Yeah.
I get fixed. And then when I can switch into that go mode,
I guarantee it's in your chart.
that's what happens. I can switch into that go mode. So I recognize that because when I have that energy of like the fear in the last minute, I'm like, oh, I know how to move through this.
The chart stuff, your astrology, that's going to be a big part of this year too.
It is going to be a big part. I'm excited.
Steph, I think we've mentioned it.
Have we?
I think we have.
Did we?
I think we've mentioned that you're taking a class and you're learning and you're studying and you're diving like super deep into
Super
astrology.
deep. And it's fantastic.
So you're going to get a lot more of that to come on the podcast. That's what she said.
That's what she said.
I have something that I wanted to talk about so we can close out the episode with this.
Okay.
Mark Johnson is somebody that we just absolutely love. I think Mark's been on the podcast 3 times, two or three different times. He was on semi recently. I don't remember when.
I think it was the summer of 2020.
Was it?
I believe so.
Anyways, he's just an amazing dude. And he does this. He's an English teacher. He retired from teaching English in high school. So he writes a lot and he shares his writing on social. And so we follow him on Instagram. If you want to go find him, you can find him via our Instagram. It's Mark Westside Johnson. And he's doing this thing. He always does cool things. Like he did a year without fear, where he just said yes to everything. And he wrote about it and kind of shared it. So he's always doing really, really cool stuff.
What's this name?
So he has this thing, Year of the Cat.
That was last year, right?
Yes, but he kind of dropped off and now he's picking it back up and he's writing more from that space. And the idea is that he's a jungle cat and, jungle cats are, live in the moment and are fit and lean and connected and all sorts of different stuff. But this was a recent post that he had and I'm just going to read it.
Do it.
And do the best that I can and then we can talk about it. So Year of the Cat, day 82. Keep in mind, obviously, this is from his perspective. I'm not speaking from mine. This isn't the first person Craig experience. Today I was zapped by a lightning bolt of insight. Some weird shit about the ego. I'm going to write about it, even though I know it sounds strange. I'll tell it like a story. Have you read this?
I haven't read that one.
This morning I did hot yoga. I've been doing hot yoga every day for the last few months. After class, I was lying. He's been doing hot yoga for like a few years. Just lately, he's been going every day. After class, I was lying in a pool of my own sweat, and I thought, the ego is a preservative. It preserves our identity. It protects it. It not only protects it, but it expands it by identifying ourselves with more and more things, people, thoughts, ideologies, etc. Things that define us. The ego protects and expands our identity. But what if the ego has actually created our identity? What if we have a soul or a spirit or some life force that animates us, but the ego creates our identity, our personality, who we think we are? We have an ancient energy that never dies. It just transforms. And then we have the ego that builds our identity for a specific life. We are 2 things. The first, us, is our spirit, an ancient and everlasting energy. And the second us is who we think we are in this lifetime. And that second us is created by the ego. We become what the ego builds. When I was a baby, my mom named me Mark Jerome Johnson. My ego took that information and started building my identity around it. The more confirming messages I receive, the more things I identify with, the more complete the idea of the self becomes. Once the ego starts building our identity, it begins to protect it. That's why the ego protects our identity. It protects it because it created it. Weird shit. All that from Hot Yoga. And then he usually signs off with one love.
That dude is awesome.
Right? But I just love that thought process.
Yeah.
The ego is a big thing in spirituality, right? The death of the ego, learning, how to that the ego is separate from you and all these kind of different things. And over the course of my journey and my experience, I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about the ego. I usually have this thing that runs through me, and it's something that's been there forever. It's kind of like a fuck you thing, right? And if there's a general common thing that people all agree upon, I'm like, that's not for me. Fuck that. And then I'll just kind of ignore it and do my own thing and not really pay attention to it. Sometimes that's served me and sometimes it's not, obviously. So I don't spend a lot of time thinking about necessarily my ego. And I think that because it can be, I think, used to describe a lot of different things kind of in the space of healing and self-discovery and everything like that. So when I think about my ego, I think of it more as obviously it's a part of myself. It's a part of me. But I also think of it very much as an external part of me. I don't think of it as me, just another part, just another voice, right?
Yeah.
And the purpose of it is what? I don't know. And so this idea of the purpose of the ego and what it's doing, I liked. I hadn't thought of it in that regards. So I found that today. Immediately I commented and shared it. And I'm like, dude, because I told Mark was on episode number 2 of the podcast. Yeah. Back in the early days, I used to, do you remember when I started the podcast?
Yes.
And I released 30 episodes in a month or something.
Yes. Yep.
There was a new episode every other day or something like that. I don't remember. It was crazy. Yeah, it was nuts. But he was episode number 2. And I remember telling him, I'm like, dude, because he's just a hippie. He's just this, he's always been that way. He's always super wise and connected. And his energy is very, very calm and soothing and chill and relax. He just has a really peaceful, energetic feel to him when you're around him and stuff like that. And I've always felt that with him. But I just loved that idea. And so when I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, we got to share that on the podcast. What do you think? What stood out for you?
Oh. First of all, I want to speak to his calm energy.
Yes.
The first time, because you've known him for years and years and years. And when he was on episode 2, that was before I was a part of this. And I wasn't there. I hadn't met him. The first time I ever met him in person was that summer. And
the last time that he was on the show
was the last time that he was on. So that was the first time. And I think that was the first time, because we were thinking, okay, so we were on Leanne's podcast.
2019.
We did that together. But I believe Mark was the first, because I think Mark was the first one that I ever recorded. If my memory is right, which it might not be, I think Mark was the first time that the first podcast where it wasn't just you and me, where we were recording with somebody.
Oh, okay. So the first time that we had a guest on the show.
I think so. I might be wrong.
Could be.
However, that's how I remember it. And I remember, or it was somebody that I didn't know. That was a stranger. And he was so awesome and it was so comfortable. And I did not have a hard time talking to him at all. It was just this really easy conversation. It was so easy to be around him and so easy to listen and be engaging, and just, it feels good to be around him. He does have that energy. And then we went on to the next podcast and I wasn't as afraid because I know that, and it was not it's not that the other energy was bad. It's just, he's got this uniqueness to him, this really special calming energy. And so then I went from not being afraid to what to say. I don't know how to sit. And so then it became very scary again. So his energy is really amazing. He's an amazing person.
Yeah, the last time he was on the show was episode 201.
Yeah.
Yeah, 69 episodes ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, what stands out?
That stands out huge. Like as soon as like I went off into started thinking when he was describing that, I remember when I started learning about the ego, I would always not really pay attention to that. I wouldn't entertain the ego because ego was egotistical, self-centered. You're before everybody else. That just all about like the me. And that's what the ego was. Mm-hmm. And I knew that wasn't me. So I was like, I don't have a problem with ego. You know, I could use a little problem with ego. Like if I could pull that in a little bit to where I was a little bit more about me. I didn't realize that it extended through both ends of the spectrum. So as much as you have the one end of being unbalanced is you are the center of the universe. Nobody is as good as you. You're the best and everybody should bow. Just like that whole like narcissism. The other side is thinking you're garbage and that you don't match up and you're not good enough to be around anybody. And you're just kind of like that opposite end. That's also your ego. And that is also preserved. And that is also how it is created. So that fit and just seeing that way that can dance across the entire spectrum, like that resonated with me.
Yeah. I like the idea that, I mean, obviously I feel the same way in regards to like, we were, that we have this undying energy inside of us, right? Mm-hmm. That's the first part of who we are. And then we come here to this experience, or, I mean, that the more and more that we get into this life, I don't even know if this is real.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel that all the time.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's usually when I'm having a panic attack. I'm like, oh, is this even reality?
Because I think about like being born. And I'm like, it's not like I came to Earth. You know, it's not like a wormhole and then popped out of a vagina.
What if that's exactly what it is?
It could be, but...
Black hole sun.
You know, at some point during the inception process, and at some point, because I think that, I mean, when does life occur? I'm getting off on these tangents because my brain is just, when we get into this space of talking about, you know, deep hippie energy shit, my brain goes wild. But
right.
The idea that we have this ancient energy inside of us, I relate to that so much, and that it's undying, mm-hmm. and that it embodies this meat suit and bag of bones that gets carried around for however many years. But even all of that is like, just none of it feels so concrete. Like none of it feels concrete to me. None of it feels real.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've done so much work and we talk about, you know, traumas in childhood and, you know, the course of our life and all that. And we talked about, you know, all of these experiences. What if it's not?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Part of me thinks that it's not that life really isn't what we think it is. Whether it's the Matrix, whether it's a simulation, I don't really care.
Yeah.
But I think the more and more that I live and the more and more that I think about it and the more and more that I experience things, I don't know what is real.
Yeah.
You know?
I do know.
And so some of these constructs of like trying to understand and contextualize and like, because it's beautiful. I'm obviously not negating what he wrote. I think it's beautiful. I love it when he writes. I love reading his stuff. I read the majority of the stuff that he writes just because I usually get something from it. But the need to define this existence, the need to identify, quote unquote, what the ego is.
Okay.
This whole thing of basically we're trying to like, all of it I feel like is, and we do it too.
Yeah.
We're trying to give context to this experience.
Is it give context to, or just like getting out of the way of the context so you can experience?
I think it's, I don't know. That's the thing. I don't have a fucking clue what it is.
Yeah.
Right. It just feels very It just doesn't feel real to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm really comfortable with that.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I struggle with that.
Like I'm so okay with if it's just like a dream or if the day begins and that's the very first day that I've ever embodied anything.
Yeah.
Because imagine like, what if we just have amnesia and I wake up
Okay.
and I don't realize that this is me dropping into Craig.
Yeah.
And I think that this
You
is
have-
the first time that I'm here, or that, you know, this is my life and I can remember all
You
my
have
memories.
all of these things, right?
Right. So I
That could
think
be
that
it.
that's the case. But what if it's not?
What if it's not?
What if it's just my energy bouncing around?
What if that's it? What if it's like it really is the egg theory?
Yeah.
And we just keep dropping into all of these.
Yeah.
Could be.
So we won't go down too many rabbit holes.
Why not? Rabbit holes are fun.
Was that a sexual innuendo?
Usually.
Is rabbit code for pussy? Can you get some rabbits up in here? I wouldn't mind going down some rabbit holes. Hey, you got any rabbits back there?
Oh my god.
I'm such a dork.
You're adorkable.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll probably elaborate more.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in future
On
episodes.
rabbits or
Probably.
okay. I wasn't sure where you were going. You kind of like split.
The rabbit.
Okay. No.
When in doubt, spread them out.
Oh, remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah, maybe we should get back into like some spiritual, energetic shit this year.
You want to talk about some of that?
Yeah.
I'm down.
We don't talk about it enough. With this last year, the previous year, right? That one that's so long ago was all emotional work.
Yeah.
Super emotional.
It was important.
Very
I'm
important.
still going to be doing that this year.
Not me. I'm done.
Yeah.
I fired my fucking therapist.
You do.
Said, fuck you. I'm done with this shit. Sitting there telling me, oh, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that, isn't it, Craig? No, but maybe we'll get more
Happen
into.
to be our freaking mantra now.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for that, sir.
Because with
Really?
the conjunction of your work in your work with the astrologies, and yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty magical.
You are magical.
So maybe we'll get into it some more this year.
I would love
Talk
that.
about it on the podcast. I have
I
a
miss
lot.
talking about all that stuff with you. I
Do
get
you?
scared to talk about it with you. I usually won't. I do sometimes, and I'm doing more than I have, but
What is scary about it? Do you think I'm not into it?
there's a lot of different things. We can get into that at a later episode.
Okay, I'm putting that on the fucking list.
Yeah, your scratch paper.
Talk about why Steph is scared to talk energy shit with me. Yeah, that's interesting, babe. I can, come up with a bunch of reasons why I think.
I like your handwriting.
Do you?
Yeah. I'm glad you started taking these kind of notes.
So you can see my handwriting?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like your handwriting.
Do
too.
you?
Mm-hmm.
Does it make you feel warm and fuzzy?
It does.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
get that. I really like yours.
Okay. Let's wrap up. EnergyLovePodcast.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, we ask one simple thing of you. Actually, you don't have to do anything. You literally don't have to do anything. You can just listen to this and never do anything. I'm totally okay with that. Or if you'd like to,
you could share it.
yeah, you could tell somebody about it. Go to YouTube, find our Clips channel. If you go, it's easy to find, obviously. If you follow us on YouTube already, you can find it via there. You can go to...
Clicking on the channels, right?
Yeah. Also on Instagram, if you click on the link tree, it's right in there. We did a link tree. We're done, right? We don't have to do anything else. We did a link tree. I don't know what the fuck a link tree is, but we did one. And it's easy. You can go find it now. And yeah, we got some guests coming up this year. This month specifically, some episodes in the works right now. I'm excited for some of those episodes.
Me too.
It's going to be super cool.
Good
Some new
ones lined up.
sponsors for the podcast, some new collaborations. 2022 is just going to be a fucking year for the podcast. I tell you
Yes,
what,
it is.
it's going to be amazing. So thank you for joining us and being here on this brand new episode of this brand new year. Hopefully your holiday season was amazing. And next year, this coming year, this thing that you're in right now is going to be super spectacular and amazing. We all fucking deserve it after the last couple of years. Jesus.
Yes, we do.
Right? We all survived. Well, not all of us, but some of us. Anyways. Peace out.